Good morning, everyone. Are you all well today? Yes? Yes. That's good. That's good. Did you have a nice vacation last week? I know you're laughing. Why? The kids are wondering, what vacation? I didn't go anywhere. Yes, I did. So you had a vacation from me. Did you enjoy it? Yeah, nice vacation. How was Father Frank? Was he good? Yeah, yeah, he's a good guy, great guy. He didn't tell you any stories about me, I take it. Yeah, he did, I understand. Yeah, when I was a kid, right? Boy, could I tell you a few stories about Father Frank, though, from when I was a kid. Something about washing a car, and after the car was washed, it didn't start. John Frank, what did you do to my car? Something like that. Something like that. There was a wire under the seat back in those days that if it was unplugged and you didn't attach your seatbelt, the car would work. But if the plug was plugged in and you didn't plug in your seatbelt when you drove, the car wouldn't start. After I got done washing his car wouldn't start. I think that was the last time I washed his car. Anyhow. So we have entered into these dreary days of winter. They're set upon us, aren't they? I know last week, I understand I was away, and it was a rainy, dreary, snowy kind of week. And though it looks a little bit bright today, you know, these short, dark, gray days, the long, dark nights of winter. People suffer, and I know I do, from what do they call it, seasonal affect disorder or something like that. It just, this kind of comes upon us during these weeks, and you just say, golly, what are we going to do to get rid of it, to get past it? And I think one of the best things, of course, is, and this is something a lot of people start doing at this time of year, is plan your summer vacation. Yes? Yes, plan your summer vacation. Everybody start planning their summer vacation? I have. And the first question, of course, when you plan your summer vacation is, where to? Where are we going, right? Where are we going to go this year? Some people go off to all kinds of exotic kind of places. Some have a regular house at the shore that they go to, or up to the mountains they go to. Some people, it's just enough to kind of take a break and hang out in your own backyard. Whatever you do as a vacation, where are you going? Where are you going? And that's really the theme of this series. When I was 10 years old, any 10-year-olds here? Any 10-year-old, one or two, there's a couple of 10-year-olds here. Or 11, yes, okay. So I was 10 years old, turning 11, but it was at this time of the year when I was 10 years old, I would be 11 later in the summer, that my parents announced to us, my brothers and sisters and I, that we would be taking a family vacation. 6 weeks, we would be traveling in a camper across the country to just see the world and see our country, beautiful country, go visit relatives that at that time lived out in California. In the months leading up to the trip, we were all participated in one way or another with the planning of that trip. Dad told us this is the basic route, and the rest of us, the kids, all had to figure out, okay, what states are we going to be visiting? And when we go to those states, what are the things that are there to go and see? Well, in order to know what that was, this is long before the days of computers and the internet and that sort of thing, where you just kind of type in, you know, the state of whatever state you're going to go visit and find out all kinds of stuff about it. Long before GPS and that sort of thing. So we wrote to all the tourist boards, the tourist offices of the states, to get information. And in a matter of not very long, all of these packages were coming back to us, and some states just sent a state map. Other states sent all kinds of really great information for us to go through to figure out where we would go. So we planned the trip, what parks we'd stay at and camp out, the national parks that we would visit, how long it would take to get from one to the next, where we would stop, that sort of thing. It was just a whole lot of fun. As we completed our planning, and of course the trip was on our way, the 8 of us, mom and dad, 6 kids, and the German Shepherd, loaded into the camper, designed for 6. My mother came to call it the gypsy wagon. what an adventure it was. Oy, oy, oy. Sleeping on top of one another practically. I still remember, though, one particular image that I have kind of ingrained in my brain from that trip, although there were many. But one in particular was waking up one morning after my father had driven late into the night and stopped in a rest area. Now, of course, when it was time to go to bed, no matter whether he was driving or not, we went to bed. And it was dark. It was very dark, as I recall. And waking up in the morning, opening up the windows, and there we were in the Badlands of South Dakota, and waking up to this beautiful sunrise that made it look like we were in a living painting. It was absolutely beautiful. I can remember it to this day. But getting there, you know, knowing which way is north and south, east and west, knowing those things, well, not knowing would really make the trip futile. I can remember times on the trip sitting on the bench next to my dad in the camper. He would be driving along. He'd say, "Get the map. I want to know where we're going to go next, and show me on the map where we are." And my question would be, well, where are we going to go? What direction are we going in to know where we would be going next? Where to go? I learned many lessons on that trip. Many lessons, and some of them I'm going to share with you throughout the course of this series, but I'm going to be using the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, which is the passages that we're going to be reading over the course of the next few weeks. And using the sermon, we'll look at this question and hopefully come up with an answer of, well, where to? Where are we going? Where do you want to go? How are we going to get there, and can we get there? You know, if you're planning to go on a trip, you're going to go someplace. In this day and age, the resources are often very much right in your hand as to how to get there and all that sort of thing. We all have our gizmos that give us the GPS and the coordinates, and you say, I want to get to this particular address, you put it in and just follow the map. But in those days, you needed other tools. And there were many really great tools, but one essential tool that we needed in order to keep us going in the right direction was, as you can see in the picture, a compass. Without a compass, you're doomed to travel really in a circle, because you never know what is the right direction. And if ever you're lost in the woods, that's the thing that happens. You travel right, one day, eventually you find yourself back at the place where you started. And the same is true in life. In every one of our lives, we have to have a compass, something that's going to help us get where we want to go and keep us on track to get us to the goals that we want to accomplish in our lives. Whatever you want to do in life, whatever your plans are for life, or wherever you're going in your life, you need a compass. And it could be anything that's going to keep you on that right path. Our Christian lives, our spiritual journeys are no different. In order to follow Jesus, there are tools that we need to make that journey possible. And the one essential tool is a compass. You might say, okay, in the spiritual journey and the Christian life, the following Jesus, what's the compass? What good is that kind of compass? Well, there's a great scene in the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Anybody see that movie? Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? You saw that movie? It's a great movie. All those Indiana Jones movies are really, really fun movies to watch. Indy, in this story, is searching for the Holy Grail. You know what the Holy Grail is, don't you? Okay, it's the chalice that Jesus used at the Last Supper. Okay, the Holy Grail is the chalice that Jesus used at the Last Supper, and Indy is searching for it. And he's searching for it because he's got to save his father, who the bad guys in the movie have kind of kidnapped. He gets to the place where he believes it is. But in order to complete his quest, there are 3 tests that he must pass. Let's see if we can watch the first one.
Breath of God. A penitent man will pass. Penitent man will pass. Penitent
So he's through. He's made it through that first test, right? And of course, the first test says that only the penitent man will pass. You want to go on this journey, you got to be penitent. But what is the penitent man? And that's what Indy's asking. What is the penitent man? Who is that? Well, he's humble. And the humble man kneels before God, he says. If you're unwilling to kneel before God, like the fellas that you saw laying down there, you're going to get your head chopped off. And that's why Indy has to kneel down. The penitent man is one who is humble. Here's what Zephaniah in the first reading says. Seek the Lord, all you humble of the earth. Seek justice. Seek humility. Perhaps you may be sheltered on the day of the Lord's anger. In our faith journey, our compass is humility, being humble. Now, I have to admit, for those of you that are older and can think about these things a little bit more deeply, the image that Indy gives us of humility is not really the best image, but it provides a really great starting point. And the starting point that it provides is one of trust. Humility requires trust. It takes humility, it takes trust to follow a compass. Especially when things are difficult, especially in the darkest moments of life. Another trip that we took as a family, actually it was just Mom and Dad and I, we were on their sailboat on an overnight trip up off the east coast of New Jersey, going up to Long Island Sound on their sailboat, overnight. It was dark at night. All you could see was the lights from the shore, and then every once in a while you'd see lights out on the water that were the buoys or other boats. My dad said, as he was off to bed, the captain, he wanted to go sleep for a few hours, he said, I want you to stay on this particular heading. And it was whatever the compass direction was, I forget at the time. Stay on this heading and keep going there. Well, seeing all these different lights was very distracting, and it didn't seem like that heading was a safe direction or the right direction. But it was. See, in the dark of night, following a compass is difficult. And really, humility can be a daunting value. It can be something that is difficult to follow. But deep down, every one of us knows we need it. We need to be humble. Because it's the only way that we're going to get to know God in our lives. Some of us might even pray, Lord, teach me humility, just not yet. Why? Because for a lot of us, we're not so sure if we're ready to trust somebody that we can't see or hear. We're not so sure we're ready to trust someone that, well, we don't know if really he knows what he's doing. Real humility develops over time. It grows in us, or rather, we grow in humility if we allow it. And it begins, well, at the beginning of life. When we see ourselves in relationship to our parents who take care of every need of ours. And those of you who are children, don't you trust your mom and dad to take care of you and make sure they're there for you? Sure you do. You know, and that's the beginning of humility, seeing yourself in relationship to your parents. That's an innocent kind of humility, and it helps us as young people, it helps young people to get to the point that one day they might say, I'll become a great, superstar athlete. Any superstar athlete potentials here? I bet you there's a few of you who want to become a superstar athlete. Maybe there's a couple of you that want to become a great famous doctor. Maybe somebody wants to be the president of the United States. How about a simple parish priest? You know, and that may happen, mind you, but only if you learn to grow in humility. What usually happens, sadly, is that we are given high and lofty goals and told, oh, you can do anything you want to do, most of which is really unattainable. And because of that, we get beat down over time. Oh, I can never do this, I could never do that. And that's when humility is corrupted, and we take on this attitude of, I am less than, and therefore I am not worthy of. And that's really not good humility. That's false humility. I'm less than. But when we grow in humility, we begin to see ourselves not merely in relation to our parents, but in relation to God and God's plan for our lives. And that's an actual heartfelt, lived humility. And it's found in young and old alike because it's God's plan. I mean, God has a plan for every one of us, no matter where we are in life. And that plan is that you and I become the best versions of ourselves. Become the best that we can be. C.S. Lewis, he was the author of the Chronicles of Narnia, great series of books. He once said, humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. Why humility? Well, you know, if I'm thinking about myself less, then who am I thinking about more? Well, that gets us to the prologue to the Sermon on the Mount that we heard, the Beatitudes. You're familiar with that passage from Matthew's Gospel. And he offers the answer. Blessed, blessedness, blessedness. That word blessed comes from a Greek word, makarios, which is translated also happy. In fact, you may know of translations of the Bible where they use the word happy are those who are poor in spirit. Happy or fortunate is another translation. And another translation is, it's congratulations. It's a congratulatory word, as in, congratulations, you just won $1 million. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Which, of course, makes all of these Beatitudes seem somewhat strange. Congratulations, you're poor in spirit. How fortunate it is that you're sorrowful. Happy are you who are persecuted. Huh? That doesn't make sense, does it? No, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. But that depends on how you answer that question, where to? Where are we going in life? Who are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? You know, the greatest form of blessing is from God. The greatest blessings that we receive in life are from God. And in ancient times, the way that people knew that God was blessing them was through the prosperity that they experienced as individuals and as a community. In fact, today there are preachers, televangelists, guys on the TV on Sunday morning who are preaching a gospel of prosperity. If you're making it in life, God's blessing you. Becoming rich, well off, nice clothes, nice home, latest gizmos, all of the good things and comforts in life. That's what everybody was after. That's what everyone is after. And it was true in those days. It was true for the Jewish people that Jesus preached to. The rich, they got richer. The poor got poorer. The rich were taken care of. The poor were ignored. But not for Jesus. For Jesus, it wasn't economic prosperity that was to bring happiness and blessedness and comfort and fortune. It was something a lot more abstract. It was what was right there in your heart, the very core of your being. You see, he brought into question that idea that what does life mean? And the more you get, the better off you are. And he showed that that kind of life is really shallow and not worthwhile. Yeah, God's blessing is not an economic prosperity. And Jesus is all about you and I becoming the best versions of ourselves, so that we can realize the dreams of life, so that maybe you can become a superstar athlete, or maybe realize the becoming a simple parish priest. Because being the best version of yourself is realized in accepting ourselves in relation to God and his plan for your life. That's humility. That's real humility. So here's my challenge for you this week. Pray for humility. Pray for it. God will give it to you if you pray for it. Because God will give you the compass that will point you in the direction that he intends for your life. And trust that what God offers you and what God gives you is really the best plan, the best path for your life. And the coming weeks through this series, we'll talk about some of the other tools that you need to follow God, follow his will, to get to, well, where you need to go, where we're going. And that includes, well, if you have a compass, you need a map. You need to know where you are on the map. You need to know where you're going to go and have a plan to get there, and the resources to get there. This coming weekend, next weekend, I really encourage you to think about participating, if you haven't already signed up, in the Called and Gifted workshop. Most especially those of you who are parents, because I know that it's true that every parent wants to be a better parent. And the Called and Gifted workshop is a great way to make that a reality in your life, because it's a great way to discover God's plan for you so that you can help your children discover God's plan for their lives. Even for those of you that are older, and you're saying, oh, I'm done, I'm finished with that journey, I'm just satisfied living life day to day as I do. No, it's an opportunity to understand what God has been working in your life. So think about signing up and participating in the Called to Gifted workshop, because really doing so requires humility. That's that compass that will help you to get where to.